A reclusive billionaire lived in solitude, shielded from the world by his wealth and cold demeanor. One snowy evening, his routine was shattered by an unexpected knock at the door. Opening it, he found a small girl, trembling in the cold, clutching two infants. Her plea was simple, yet desperate. "Please help us. They're sick." The billionaire hesitated. Strangers at his doorstep were unheard of, yet the sight of the children, feverish and weak, softened something deep within him. "Come inside," he said, stepping aside. The girl hurried in, leaving a trail of melting snow on his immaculate floor. He guided her to the living room and asked her to lay the babies on the couch. Their faces were flushed, their breathing shallow. The girl, pale and shaking, looked as though she hadn't eaten or slept in days. Adam, the billionaire, retrieved a medical kit and draped a blanket over her thin shoulders. Examining the infants, he noted their high fevers, but found no visible injuries. "How long have they been like this?" he asked. The girl stammered, "Since yesterday." They wouldn't stop crying. Then they just got quiet. Adam worked methodically, his clinical precision a stark contrast to the chaos she'd brought into his home. He administered fluids and reassured her, "They'll be fine for now. They need rest and care." The girl watched him intently, gratitude shining through her exhaustion. When Adam instructed her to stay the night in his guest room, she hesitated, then nodded. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. As she sank into a chair, her weariness overtaking her, Adam stood in silence. He glanced at the children, then at the girl. The warmth he had buried beneath layers of detachment began to surface, though he wasn't ready to confront it. Turning back to the door, he saw the snow continuing to fall, muffling the outside world. Something had shifted in him, though he wasn't sure what. For now, he pushed the thought aside. There was still work to be done. The quiet house carried an almost rhythmic stillness. The air faintly smelled of antiseptic, mixed with the lingering scent of pine from the Christmas wreath in the foyer. Adam leaned against the kitchen counter, his eyes focused down the hallway where the girl, Emma, had retreated to the guest room. He had sent her there reluctantly, uncertain if he could trust her, but unsure of what else to do. In the living room, the twins, Lily and Leo, lay bundled on the leather couch. Their fragile forms, though stable for now, still bore unmistakable signs of neglect. Hollow cheeks, wiry arms, and a pale, drawn-out weariness. Adam adjusted the blanket over Leo and placed a thermometer under his arm. The child stirred, but didn't wake. After noting the temperature, he reached for Lily's hand. The faint, rapid pulse beneath her thin skin made his stomach tighten. It wasn't concern, he told himself. No, it was irritation. Irritation at being forced into this situation. But the memory of Emma shielding the twins, bracing her entire body as if to protect them from some unseen danger, lingered in his mind longer than he liked. Footsteps creaked on the stairs. Emma appeared, wrapped tightly in the oversized sweater he'd given her. The fabric swallowed her slight frame. Her eyes darted around the room, finally settling on the couch before meeting Adam's gaze. "Are they okay?" she asked, her voice soft but lined with worry. Adam crossed his arms, standing rigid. "For now, their fevers are down, but they're clearly malnourished." He paused, studying her face. When was the last time they ate properly? Emma's gaze dropped to the floor. She shifted uneasily, clutching her arms. I don't know," she stammered. "I tried. I did my best." Her voice cracked, and Adam felt a pang of something unsettlingly close to guilt. He hadn't meant to accuse her, but his words had clearly struck a nerve. He softened his tone, though it retained his bluntness. "They'll need consistent nutrition to recover. So will you." Emma's head snapped up. "I'm fine," she said quickly, her voice defensive. Adam recognized the defiance of someone accustomed to fighting for survival. He didn't press her, at least not now. Instead, he gestured toward the kitchen. "Sit, eat something." Her hesitation was palpable, but hunger and exhaustion eventually won. She shuffled to the table, her movements slow and wary. Adam set a bowl of soup, bread, and a glass of water in front of her. She eyed the food cautiously, as though expecting it to vanish. "You don't have to guard it," Adam remarked dryly. I'm not in the habit of feeding people just to take it back." Startled, Emma glanced at him, then gave a small nod. She began to eat, her bites hurried but careful. Meanwhile, Adam returned to the couch, checking the twins once more. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the occasional clink of her spoon against the bowl. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice barely audible. "My name's Emma," she said hesitantly, as if testing his reaction. "They're Lily and Leo." Adam didn't look up but responded evenly. "Adam." More silence followed. He could feel her eyes on him, watchful and wary. Eventually, she whispered, "Thank you for helping." "I didn't do it for thanks," Adam replied. His tone wasn't unkind, but it was matter of fact, and Emma flinched slightly. He didn't press further. He wasn't interested in prying, at least not tonight. As Emma rose from the table to check on the twins, Adam noticed the way her small hands adjusted their blankets with such deliberate care. He felt an unfamiliar tightness in his chest. It was something he couldn't quite name, something he didn't want to explore. Not yet. Responsibility. Adam told himself that's all it was, nothing more. But just as the tension in the room began to fade, Lily stirred violently, a faint whimper escaping her lips. Emma froze, her face paling. Adam was at her side in an instant, gently lifting the infant with swift, steady hands. "She's burning up again," Emma whispered, her voice laced with rising panic. "What's wrong?" Adam's focus narrowed, his hands moving with practiced precision. "Calm down," he said firmly, but not unkindly. "She'll be fine." "Are you sure?" Emma's voice cracked, fear spilling into her words. "Yes," Adam replied without looking at her, his attention fixed on Lily. "But I need you to stay composed. I can't work if you're panicking." Emma bit her lip and nodded quickly. Though her fear was palpable, she did as he instructed, hovering close, but staying quiet. As Adam worked to stabilize Lily's fever, he could feel Emma's gaze on him, wary but filled with fragile hope, like someone clinging to the last branch in a storm. He didn't acknowledge it, not now. His focus remained on the tiny, fragile life in his hands and the unfamiliar weight of duty pressing on his chest. When dawn began to creep through the mansion's high windows, its soft light illuminated the stark lines of the living room. Adam sat slumped in a chair beside the couch, his shoulders rigid and his face drawn with exhaustion. Lily's fever had finally broken a few hours ago, her small body now resting peacefully beside her twin. For the first time since Emma had arrived, the house felt still. Emma sat cross-legged on the floor nearby, barely moving all night. Her tired eyes lingered on the twins, as though looking away might undo Adam's efforts. She absently rubbed her arms, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You didn't sleep," Adam said hoarsely. It wasn't a question. Emma glanced at him, her expression wary but softening. "Neither did you." Adam didn't answer immediately. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees as he studied her. The exhaustion etched into her features was undeniable, but beneath it was a quiet determination, a strength that reminded him of someone he hadn't allowed himself to think about in years. "They're stable now," he said finally, "but they'll need proper care for a while. You can't keep running like this." Emma stiffened, her shoulders curling inward. "I don't have a choice." "You do," Adam replied, his tone firm but lacking its usual sharp edge. "At least for now. You can stay here until they're strong enough." He hesitated, letting the sentence trail off, unsure where it might lead. She nodded faintly, her eyes drifting back to the twins. "Thank you," she whispered, barely audible. Adam stood and stretched, shaking off the stiffness in his limbs. "You should eat something," he said, gesturing toward the kitchen. When she hesitated, he added, "You won't be much help to them if you collapse." Reluctantly, Emma rose and padded toward the kitchen. The oversized sweater he'd given her hung loose on her small frame, making her seem even smaller. Adam watched her go, his expression unreadable. As he began tidying the remnants of his medical supplies, a faint clink caught his attention. He looked down and saw something glinting faintly on the floor where Emma had been sitting. Picking it up, he felt the cool weight of a silver ring in his palm. The delicate inscription, though worn with time, was unmistakable: hope. Beneath the name was a small, intricately engraved four-leaf clover. Adam's breath caught, his fingers tightening around the ring as memories surged unbidden. Hope's laughter, the warmth of her hands brushing his as she placed the ring on her finger, the way she'd looked at him on the day she vanished. "Where did you get this?" The words escaped him, sharp and urgent, breaking the stillness like a crack of thunder. Emma froze in the doorway, her hands gripping the frame. "What?" she asked cautiously, her voice wary. Adam stepped closer, holding up the ring between his thumb and forefinger. "This. Where did it come from?" Her gaze shifted to the ring, confusion flickering across her face before giving way to recognition, and then something deeper. "It was my mother's," she said softly. "She never took it off. When she—" Emma's voice faltered, but she recovered quickly. "She left it for me, said it was important." Adam stared at her, the ring now feeling impossibly heavy in his hand. Adam forced his thoughts to focus, willing himself not to drown in the whirlwind of questions storming through his mind. His voice came out tight, barely controlled. "Your mother's name?" he asked. "What was it?" Emma hesitated, her brows furrowing slightly, puzzled by his sudden intensity. "Hope," she said after a moment. "Hope Ellis." The air in the room seemed to still. Adam's grip on the ring tightened, his knuckles turning white. It couldn't be a coincidence. The name, the inscription, everything was too exact, too deliberate. But she was gone. She had been gone for years. He had accepted it, or so he thought. "Why?" Emma's voice broke the silence, her tone hesitant. "Why do you care?" Adam's expression remained unreadable as he slipped the ring into his pocket with practiced ease. "It's nothing," he said brusquely. "Eat your breakfast." The dismissal was sharp, and Emma recoiled slightly, her eyes narrowing in suspicion, but she didn't argue. Instead, she turned back toward the kitchen, her footsteps hesitant. Left alone, Adam exhaled slowly, the weight of the revelation pressing down on him. The questions swirled in his mind, relentless. But one fact was clear. This girl, this child standing in his home, was connected to the woman he had loved and lost. The question that loomed over him now was, how? As the morning light grew stronger, Adam resolved to find the answers. For now, though, he returned to the twins. He pulled their blankets snug around their small bodies, his fingers lingering for a moment on their tiny hands before he straightened and whispered, "Who are you, Emma?" His voice was barely audible in the stillness of the room. The weight of the past hung heavy in the air, and Adam knew there was no turning back. The day unfolded slowly, the mansion wrapped in an almost oppressive quiet. Adam sat at his desk, the worn ring resting in front of him like a silent accusation. The faint hum of his laptop filled the room as he meticulously typed variations of names and dates, searching for answers. Several search results appeared, but none seemed to match until he dug deeper. Then he found it, a small obituary buried in an online archive. His breath caught as he read the text. The date was recent, painfully recent. Survived by her daughter, Emma Ellis, and 2 infant grandchildren, Lily and Leo. The words struck him like a blow. Hope had been alive until recently. She had given birth to Emma, to these twins. She had been out there somewhere, while he had been here, alone. The sound of soft footsteps broke his spiraling thoughts. Adam quickly closed the browser and slipped into his usual impassive demeanor as Emma hesitated in the doorway, clutching a mug of tea in her hands. "Are they okay?" she asked, nodding toward the living room where the twins lay asleep. "They're stable," Adam replied evenly. "You should sit down." Emma's brows knitted in slight confusion, but she complied, sinking into the chair opposite his desk. She took a sip from her mug, her hands trembling slightly. Adam studied her carefully, searching for the right words. "That ring," he began, his tone measured. "You said it was your mother's. Did she ever tell you where she got it?" Emma glanced down at her mug, her fingers tracing its rim. "No," she said quietly. "She just said it was special. that it reminded her of someone she loved. Adam's chest tightened, but he kept his face neutral. What else did she tell you about her past? Emma shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting to meet his before falling again. Not much, she admitted. She didn't like talking about it. She said it hurt too much. Her voice dropped to a whisper. She was sad a lot. The vulnerability in her tone struck a chord deep within Adam, but he kept his composure. And your father? He asked cautiously. Emma flinched, her posture stiffening. She set her mug down and folded her arms tightly across her chest. He wasn't kind, she said hesitantly. Not to her, not to me. Adam's hands tightened on the edge of the desk. The image of Hope, vulnerable, hurt, and abandoned, seared through his mind, but he pushed the thought aside. For now, he focused on the girl in front of him. You've been taking care of them alone this whole time? He asked, his voice softening. Emma nodded, glancing toward the living room. I didn't have a choice, she said quietly, her expression hardening. They're all I have. The determination in her voice struck Adam deeply. It wasn't just desperation driving her, it was love. Fierce, unrelenting love for those children. It mirrored something he thought he had lost long ago. Adam leaned back in his chair, his gaze drifting toward a bookshelf tucked in the corner. Among the medical journals and textbooks sat a small leather album, untouched for years. Rising, he pulled it from the shelf with deliberate care. Emma's eyes followed him curiously as he flipped through its pages. Finally, he stopped, his hand resting on a faded photograph. It was unmistakable, a picture of Hope. She stood in the garden of their old home, her head tilted slightly, her smile as radiant as the sun. The ring, the very one now resting in his pocket, gleamed on her finger. Adam placed the photograph on the desk, sliding it toward Emma without a word. Emma leaned forward, her brows knitting in confusion. Her hand reached out hesitantly, her fingers brushing the edges of the photograph. That's my mother, she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. She looked up at Adam, her eyes wide. How do you have this? Adam didn't answer immediately. His throat felt dry, his heart pounding in a way that unnerved him. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady but weighted with unspoken emotion. I knew her, he said simply, a long time ago. Emma's confusion deepened. You knew her, she echoed. But how? She never mentioned you. Adam's jaw tightened. There are things you don't know about her past, he said carefully, things she may not have wanted to remember. Emma leaned back, clutching the photograph as though it might slip away. Why are you telling me this now? She asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Adam hesitated. His thoughts churned, torn between revealing the truth and protecting the fragile stability she clung to. But the connection between them, between their pasts, was undeniable. I think, he began cautiously, there's more to your mother's story than you realize, and I think it's time we both found out the truth. The fire in the hearth crackled softly, filling the room with a faint warmth. Emma sat on the edge of the couch, her hands clasped tightly around a cup of tea Adam had given her. The twins were sleeping again, their shallow breaths almost inaudible beneath the thick blankets. The photograph Adam had shown her rested on the coffee table, untouched since she'd set it there hours earlier. You said you knew her, Emma finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. She wasn't looking at Adam, her gaze fixed on the fire, her fingers tightened around the cup. What was she like? Before everything, I mean. Adam, seated in the armchair across from her, hesitated. He had spent the last hour debating how much to tell her, struggling with the tangled emotions he'd buried for years. He rubbed a hand across his face before folding his arms. She was strong, he said at last, his voice measured but distant. Hope had a way of lighting up a room. She was stubborn too. Once she set her mind on something, there was no changing it. Emma's lips twitched, the faintest trace of a smile flickering across her face. She always told me that, she said softly. Said I was just like her. Adam nodded but didn't elaborate. The memories were still raw, even after all these years. Instead, he steered the conversation back to Emma. What happened after she had the twins? The smile faded from Emma's face. She stared into her tea, her shoulders tensing. "She got sick," she said quietly. "It was hard for her to take care of them. I tried to help, but my stepfather, he made it worse." Adam's expression darkened, but he stayed silent, letting her continue. "He wasn't like that at first," Emma went on, her voice thick with bitterness. "When they got married, I thought maybe things would be different. But once we moved in with him, it all changed. He'd come home drunk, angry, and take it out on her. On me." Her voice caught, and she blinked rapidly to hold back tears. After the twins were born, she couldn't fight back anymore. She was too weak. Adam leaned forward slightly, his hands resting on his knees. "And after she passed?" he asked carefully. Emma drew in a shaky breath, her voice faltering. "He said it was my fault. If I hadn't been such a burden, she wouldn't have gotten sick," Emma whispered, her voice trembling. "And when the twins cried, he'd yell at me to shut them up. Sometimes, he'd hit me." Her voice broke, and she clenched her fists tightly, trembling with the weight of her confession. "I tried to protect them, but I couldn't let him hurt them too. That's why I left. I had to." The room was engulfed in heavy silence, her words settling like a weight neither could lift. Adam's jaw tightened, anger boiling inside him, not at Emma, but at the man who had inflicted so much pain on her and her mother. The thought of Hope enduring such cruelty, and now her daughter facing the same, was almost too much to bear. "You did what you had to do," Adam said quietly, his tone firmer than before. "You protected them the best you could. That's all that matters." Emma looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But it wasn't enough. They're still so small, and I can barely take care of them. If I hadn't found you—" "You found me for a reason," Adam interrupted, his voice steady. "And you don't have to do this alone anymore." The words hung in the air, unspoken promises laced with a sincerity Adam hadn't fully intended to reveal. He saw Emma's guarded expression soften just slightly, as if she wanted to believe him but wasn't sure she could. Clearing his throat, Adam stood and paced toward the desk in the corner of the room. His mind churned with the implications of everything Emma had shared. Her story, though heartbreaking, only deepened his suspicion. The timeline, the circumstances, it all aligned too perfectly with what he knew of Hope's life. Without a word, Adam opened a drawer and pulled out a small DNA test kit. It was something he'd ordered long ago during his early medical practice, a precaution for when patients needed fast answers. Now, it felt like the only way forward. Returning to Emma, he held the kit in his hands. Emma's eyes widened slightly as she looked at it. "What's that?" she asked. "Proof," Adam replied simply. Sitting back down, he fixed her with a steady gaze. "I need to know for sure. About you. About them." Emma's brow furrowed, confusion and suspicion playing across her face. "What are you talking about?" Adam hesitated, choosing his words carefully. I think your mother and I were connected, more than you realize. This test could confirm it." Emma blinked, the weight of his words sinking in. "You mean, you think you knew her because of me? Because of us?" "I don't just think," Adam said, his voice low but firm. "I need to be sure." Emma stared at him, her expression shifting between fear and reluctant hope. After a long pause, she nodded. "Okay," she whispered, "if it means understanding more about her, and about you." Adam exhaled, a small hint of relief easing the tension in his chest. As he prepared the test, his mind swirled with memories of Hope, her laughter, her warmth, and the life they'd once imagined together. Now, the possibility of a connection to Emma and the twins stirred something he hadn't felt in years: purpose. But with that purpose came a daunting question. What would he do if the results confirmed what he already suspected? And what if they didn't? For now, Adam pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the fragile hope beginning to grow between them. The once silent mansion began to change. The air that was once sterile and cold now carried warmth. Laughter, soft and hesitant at first, started to echo down the halls. The smell of warm meals filled the kitchen as Adam prepared simple dishes, often catching Emma stealing cautious glances at him, as though trying to reconcile the stern, detached man with the one cutting sandwiches into quarters for her siblings. It was an unspoken truce. Neither mentioned the test nor the answers it promised to reveal. Instead, they existed in a strange, tentative rhythm, one defined by cautious hope and the delicate promise of a shared future neither of them dared to name yet. On the third morning, Adam stood in the kitchen, a wooden spoon in hand, stirring a pot of oatmeal. Lily and Leo sat strapped into high chairs he had purchased the day before, their tiny fists grabbing eagerly at small pieces of banana scattered across their trays. Emma hovered nearby, nervously fiddling with the hem of her sweater. "Sit," Adam said without looking at her, his tone gentle but leaving no room for argument. Emma hesitated before pulling out a chair at the kitchen table. She watched as Adam methodically portioned the oatmeal into bowls, adding a drizzle of honey before placing one in front of her. "You don't have to do all this," she said quietly. "I can take care of them." Adam glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "You've done enough," he replied. "It's my turn." The simplicity of his words caught Emma off guard, making her chest tighten. She nodded and looked down at the bowl, unsure how to respond. Later that day, the living room had been transformed into a makeshift play area. Adam sat cross-legged on the floor, his suit jacket abandoned and his sleeves rolled up. He was assembling a wooden puzzle with Leo, who giggled as Adam exaggeratedly tried to force the wrong pieces together. "That doesn't go there," Emma called out from the couch, a rare smile tugging at her lips. Adam raised an eyebrow, feigning insult. "Are you questioning my expertise?" Emma shrugged, the smile lingering. "I'm just saying, even I know that piece is upside down." Adam flipped the piece over with a dramatic flourish, eliciting another laugh from Leo. The sound was contagious, drawing Lily's attention as she crawled toward her brother. Emma slid off the couch to join them, her posture more relaxed than Adam had seen since she arrived. For a moment, the room felt complete. It wasn't perfect. There were cracks in the walls of their lives that couldn't be ignored, but it was warm, and for Adam, that warmth was enough. That evening, after the twins had been tucked in for a nap upstairs, Adam found Emma in the library. She was curled up in an armchair, one of the books he had recommended open in her lap. The soft glow of the lamp illuminated the faint shadows under her eyes, a testament to the exhaustion she still carried. "Do you like it?" Adam asked, leaning against the doorframe. Emma looked up, startled, before nodding. "It's different, but good." Adam stepped inside, settling into the chair opposite hers. For a while, neither of them spoke. The quiet between them didn't feel like an absence, but rather an unspoken understanding. "Why do you do all this?" Emma asked suddenly, breaking the silence. "You don't even know if we're really connected." Adam's gaze was steady, his voice calm. "It doesn't matter if we are. You needed help. That's enough." Emma's throat tightened, and she quickly looked away. "Most people wouldn't help. I mean, not like this." "I'm not most people," Adam said simply. By the time the DNA results arrived, the fragile bond between them had grown stronger. The quiet understanding that had formed in the house brought with it a small but growing sense of belonging, something Adam hadn't felt in years. He found himself unexpectedly invested in the small family that had stumbled into his life, unsure of where the truth would lead them, but certain it was worth finding out together. Adam lingered in the kitchen more often than necessary, finding excuses to check on the twins, even though Emma was perfectly capable of handling them. For her part, Emma had begun to open up more, sharing small glimpses of her life, her love for books, her mother's habit of humming lullabies, even the time she tried to bake cookies but forgot the sugar. When the DNA results arrived, they came quietly, in a crisp envelope slipped under Adam's office door by a courier. Adam held the envelope in his hands, longer than he intended, his fingers tracing the edges, as if the act of opening it might change everything. The house was silent. Emma and the twins were resting upstairs, their presence having brought a fragile rhythm to the emptiness of the mansion. Finally, Adam sat at his desk and unfolded the letter. His breath caught as he read the lines. Emma was his daughter. There was no question. The twins, though not his biological grandchildren, were a part of Hope's legacy, a part of her that had endured. Adam leaned back, the paper slipping from his hand onto the desk. Relief, guilt, and anger churned inside him, emotions swirling in a storm that threatened to break his carefully constructed composure. Hope had carried his child, suffered through pain and abuse, and had been torn from him by forces he never suspected. His mind raced back to the letters and medical records he had uncovered the night before. Hidden in an old box among his mother's belongings, he had found prescriptions for sedatives, signed by long-retired doctors, their dates eerily aligning with Hope's disappearance. There had also been a letter, written in his mother's unmistakable handwriting, cold and calculated. It detailed arrangements to have Hope relocated to a distant town, ensuring Adam would believe she had left him willingly. Adam clenched his fists, his mind flashing to memories of his mother's sharp gaze and manipulative words, always framed as care, but laden with control. She had orchestrated everything, not out of love, but out of a cruel desire to dominate his life and future. A sharp cry from one of the twins snapped him out of his thoughts. Rising instinctively, he left the papers scattered on the desk and headed upstairs. In the nursery, Emma was already holding Leo, her voice soft and soothing as she tried to calm him. Her tired eyes met Adam's briefly, searching for assurance. "He's just hungry," she said quietly, now that Leo had settled. Adam nodded, moving to adjust the blanket over Lily. The sight of the two small children filled him with a strange mix of sorrow and determination. They weren't his by blood, but they were Hope's, and that made them his responsibility, his family in every way that mattered. "Emma," he said after a moment, his voice low, "there's something I need to tell you." Emma looked up, her expression wary but open. She had started to trust him in small ways, asking for help with the twins and sharing parts of her life. But Adam knew what he was about to say could shatter the fragile connection they had built. He hesitated, then sat on the edge of the bed. "I ran the test," he began, meeting her gaze steadily. "You're my daughter." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Emma froze, her arms tightening protectively around Leo. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I didn't know," Adam said, his voice raw. "When your mother and I were together, I didn't know she was pregnant. She didn't leave because she wanted to. My mother..." His voice broke as anger and pain surged forward. "My mother forced her out of my life." Emma's expression shifted, a mixture of shock, disbelief, and something deeper, grief. Her hands trembled as she clutched the edge of the bed, her knuckles turning white. The room seemed to spin as Adam's words echoed in her mind. "You're lying," she whispered, her voice laced with anger. She looked up at Adam, her tear-streaked face twisted with disbelief. "This can't be true." Adam leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I'm not lying, Emma, I wouldn't. I have proof. The DNA test, the ring, the photograph. Everything lines up. I didn't know until now. I swear to you, I didn't." Her laughter was sharp and hollow, tinged with bitterness. "So, what? You're saying you're my father? That after everything, now you show up?" She stood abruptly, pacing the room, her movements erratic. "Where were you? Where were you?" Adam watched her, his heart breaking as her grief and anger spilled into the room. He had no easy answer for her, but he knew this was only the beginning of what they would need to face together. "When my mom needed you, when I needed you," Emma's voice cracked, her words cutting through Adam with an ache sharper than he had anticipated. His chest tightened, and he stood, but didn't approach her, his hands hanging limply at his sides as though he had no idea what to do with them. "I didn't know," he said quietly, his voice trembling under the weight of his regret. "I didn't know about you, or the twins, or what happened to your mother. If I had..." He paused, exhaling sharply as his composure faltered. "If I had known, I would have been there." Emma turned to face him, her eyes blazing with a mixture of anger and grief. "You should have known," she shouted. "How could you not know? My mom raised me alone, fought for me alone, while you, What? Lived your life like she never existed? Adam took a hesitant step toward her, his voice soft but resolute. I never forgot her, Emma. Never. Your mother was taken from me, my own mother. He stopped, his jaw clenching as he forced the words out. My own mother orchestrated everything. She made sure Hope was gone, and I believed her lies. I thought I'd lost her forever. Emma's breath hitched at his confession, her expression shifting from fury to something more fragile. Confusion, hurt, disbelief. You're blaming your mother for all of this? She asked skeptically, her tone wavering. Yes, Adam replied firmly. I found the evidence, Emma. The letters, the prescriptions, everything. My mother manipulated everything. She took Hope away because she didn't think we belonged together. And now, he looked down, his voice cracking. Now I have to live with that. The room fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the soft coo of one of the twins stirring in the bassinet. Emma's anger began to ebb, replaced by the overwhelming weight of the truth. Why now? She asked, her voice trembling. Why tell me this now? Adam's shoulders sagged, and for the first time, he let his vulnerability show. Because I owe you the truth. You deserve to know who you are, where you come from, and I want to be here for you, for the twins, for the family I didn't even know I had. Tears welled in Emma's eyes again, her defenses cracking under the weight of his sincerity. She sank onto the couch, covering her face with her hands as sobs racked her body. Adam hesitated for a moment before kneeling in front of her, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. I know I can't change the past, he said softly, but I can promise you this. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to do this alone anymore. Emma lowered her hands, her tear-streaked face filled with a mix of anger, grief, and the faintest glimmer of hope. How do I trust you? She whispered. After everything, how do I know you won't leave too? Adam met her gaze, steady and unwavering. Because I lost Hope once. I won't lose you too. I promise, Emma. I'll do whatever it takes to prove that to you. His sincerity was undeniable, and for the first time, Emma didn't pull away. She nodded slowly, though her expression remained guarded. I don't know if I can forgive you, she admitted, her voice barely audible. Not yet. Adam nodded in return, his voice gentle. I don't expect you to. Take whatever time you need. I'm not going anywhere. The fragile moment of connection was interrupted by a soft cry from the bassinet. Emma rose quickly, lifting Lily and cradling her against her chest. As she soothed the baby, her voice softened. There's something else, she said hesitantly. My stepfather. He's dangerous. He might be looking for us. Adam's jaw tightened, his protective instincts flaring. He won't touch you or the twins, he said firmly. I'll make sure of that. Emma turned to look at him, her eyes searching his face for any sign of doubt. Finding none, she nodded again, her grip on Lily tightening as if seeking reassurance. For the first time in years, she felt the faint stirrings of safety, fragile but real. Adam felt a flicker of purpose reignite within him. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but he was ready, for Emma, for the twins, and for the memory of hope that lived on in them. The loud, insistent knock at the door shattered the quiet resolve that had settled over the house. It wasn't like the hesitant tapping that had brought Emma to his doorstep weeks ago. Adam froze mid-step, his body going rigid. The twins were asleep in the living room, and Emma, seated beside them, looked up, her face paling. Stay here, Adam said, his voice low but firm. He strode to the door, his heart pounding, an instinctual need to protect coursing through him, sharp and unyielding. When he opened the door, the man standing on the porch was exactly who Adam feared he would be. Broad-shouldered and unkempt, the man's coat was filthy, his face flushed. Whether from the cold or anger was unclear. His eyes scanned the entryway before locking onto Adam with a sneer. You must be Adam, the man said, his voice gruff and dripping with derision. Where's Emma? Adam stepped forward, blocking the doorway. She's safe, he replied evenly, his voice calm but carrying a warning edge. "And she's staying here." The man scoffed, leaning closer as his breath formed frosty clouds in the cold air. "That's funny. She's my responsibility, my house, my rules. She belongs to me." Adam's hand gripped the edge of the door, his knuckles whitening. "Emma is not your property," he said, his voice sharp and deliberate. "She's not going anywhere with you." The man's face darkened, and he stepped forward aggressively, forcing Adam to brace himself. "Listen, Doc," the man sneered. "You don't know anything about us. She's my stepdaughter, and those kids," he jabbed a finger past Adam toward the living room, "are nothing but a drain. She's coming home where she belongs." Behind Adam, a faint sound caught his attention. He glanced over his shoulder and saw Emma standing at the edge of the hallway, Lily balanced on her hip. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "Emma," Adam said softly, keeping his tone steady. "Take the twins upstairs." "No," Emma said, her voice trembling but resolute. "He'll just keep coming." The man smirked, spreading his arms mockingly. "She's a smart one, isn't she?" Adam turned back to him, his jaw tightening. "You're trespassing," he said coldly. "Leave now, or I'll call the authorities." The man laughed, the sound harsh and grating. "And what are you going to tell them? That I'm here for my family? Good luck with that." Adam took a step forward, forcing the man to retreat slightly. "Emma has told me everything," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "About the abuse, about the threats. If you think you can walk in here and intimidate her again, you're mistaken." The man's smirk faltered, uncertainty flickering across his face. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said, his bravado slipping. "Oh, I do," Adam shot back, his tone cutting, "and I'm sure the authorities will be very interested in hearing about it." For a moment, the man seemed to waver, but then his face twisted in anger. He shoved Adam's shoulder in a burst of frustration. Adam barely moved, his years of inner strength keeping him steady. "That's assault," Adam said flatly, pulling his phone from his pocket. "Leave now, or I'll make sure you regret it." The man froze, his eyes darting to Emma. "You don't want to do this, kid," he warned, his voice venomous. "You think he's going to protect you forever? You'll come crawling back." Emma didn't flinch, though her grip on Lily tightened. "I'm not going back," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "Not ever." The man's face twisted with rage, but before he could respond, the sound of sirens pierced the air. Adam stepped back, keeping his hand on the door as two police officers pulled up to the driveway. "I called them before I answered the door," Adam said, his voice steady. "This ends now." The man glared at him, then at Emma, his expression a mix of rage and defeat. The officers approached quickly, their presence forcing him to step back. After a brief exchange, he was handcuffed and led to the patrol car, his protests echoing in the cold air. Adam closed the door, the silence inside the house almost deafening. Emma stood frozen in the hallway, her shoulders trembling as tears spilled down her cheeks. Adam approached Emma slowly, his hands gentle as he took Lily from her arms and carefully placed the baby back in the bassinet. "It's over," he said softly, his hands resting on her trembling shoulders. "He can't hurt you anymore." Emma collapsed against him, her sobs muffled against his chest. Adam held her tightly, his grip firm and steady, as she released weeks of fear and tension. For the first time, he felt her truly lean on him, no longer bracing herself to run. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice so faint it was almost inaudible. "For everything." Adam tightened his hold, his own throat thick with emotion. "You're safe now," he said. "You and the twins. I won't let anyone hurt you again." As the night deepened, the house grew quiet once more, but the stillness felt different this time. It wasn't the suffocating silence of fear or loneliness. It was the beginning of something new, a sense of safety, of family. For the first time, Emma believed it. The morning was unusually bright, sunlight streaming through the frost-tipped windows of the mansion. Adam sat at the dining table, his fingers drumming against the polished wood. Before him were legal documents, their presence pressing heavily on his chest. But it wasn't uncertainty that gripped him. It was the weight of what lay ahead. Emma entered cautiously, Lily cradled on her hip and Leo toddling beside her. She had a way of looking both determined and unsure, as though bracing for the ground to give way beneath her. "You're up early," she said softly, her voice laced with curiosity. Adam gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit down. We need to talk." Emma hesitated, shifting Lily to her other arm before settling into the chair. Leo, as if sensing the seriousness in the room, clambered onto her lap and pressed his small hands against her chest. Adam slid the papers toward her, his jaw tightening, as he watched her expression shift from confusion to disbelief. What is this?" Emma asked, her fingers trembling as they hovered over the documents. "Adoption papers," Adam said, his voice steady. "I've spoken to a lawyer. Once these are filed, you and the twins will be legally recognized as my family." Emma stared at him, her eyes wide. "You mean you're adopting us?" Adam nodded. "It's the only way to ensure your safety. Legally, no one can take you away. Not your stepfather, not anyone." Tears welled in Emma's eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Adam replied gently. "This isn't just about what's right, it's what I want. I've spent too many years convincing myself I didn't need a family." His voice softened. "I was wrong." Emma looked down at the twins, her lips trembling. "Are you sure about this? Taking on all of us? It's not easy." "Emma," Adam said, his tone unwavering, "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You and these two," he nodded toward the twins, "are all that matters now." The next few days were a whirlwind of meetings, signatures, and legal jargon. Adam worked tirelessly to expedite the process, using his reputation and resources to cut through the usual red tape. Each step brought a mixture of relief and trepidation, but Adam pressed forward with determination. At the courthouse, Emma sat beside him, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The twins were with a trusted caretaker for the day, leaving the two of them to face the proceedings alone. Adam glanced at her, noticing the way she nervously bit her lip. "You're doing fine," he said quietly, his voice calm and reassuring. Emma nodded, but didn't meet his gaze. It feels like a dream. Like any minute, someone's going to come in and say, 'It's not real.'" Adam reached over, placing a steadying hand on hers. "No one's going to take this away from us," he promised. "I swear." When the judge finally reviewed the documents and declared the adoption valid, Emma let out a shaky breath. Her eyes glistened with tears as the weight of uncertainty lifted, replaced by something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Emma didn't bother to hide her emotions as tears welled in her eyes. Adam felt a release of tension he hadn't realized he'd been holding. His voice was quiet but firm as he said, "It's official. We're a family." Emma turned to him, her face breaking into a radiant smile that momentarily erased the years of hardship etched into her features. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "For everything." Back at the mansion, Adam carried Lily in his arms, while Emma helped Leo waddle toward the living room. The adoption certificate sat framed on the mantel, a silent testament to the day's events. That evening, as the twins fell asleep in their shared crib, Emma stood at the doorway, watching them with a mixture of love and disbelief. Adam joined her, his presence quiet but reassuring. "They look so peaceful," Emma murmured. "They are," Adam replied softly, "because they know they're safe. And so are you." Emma turned to him, tears brimming in her eyes. "I've never had anyone fight for me like this," she said, her voice trembling. Adam placed a hand on her shoulder, his grip firm yet gentle. "You're worth fighting for, Emma. All three of you." As the stars shimmered outside, Adam realized this wasn't just a legal obligation. It was a second chance, a chance to rebuild what he thought he had lost. Together, they would face whatever came next, not as strangers, but as a family bound by love, resilience, and the unshakable promise of a better future. The first snow of the season blanketed the mansion in a soft, glistening white, muffling the world beyond its gates. Inside, the fireplace crackled warmly, casting a golden glow over a scene of newfound peace. Emma sat cross-legged on the plush rug, surrounded by Lily and Leo. The twins squealed with delight as they played with brightly wrapped presents Adam had carefully chosen for them. Their giggles filled the room, a melody of innocence that made the space feel alive in a way it hadn't in years. Adam watched from the armchair, a steaming mug of cocoa in his hands. His lips curved into the faintest smile as he observed the joyful chaos before him. For the first time in years, the silence that had once haunted him was replaced by the comforting hum of life. It was messy, unpredictable, and entirely perfect. "Adam!" Emma called, pulling him from his thoughts. She held up a wooden puzzle piece, a sly grin on her face. "You're the expert on these, right? Care to help?" Adam set his mug down and shook his head with mock exasperation. "If I recall, you were the one critiquing my skills last time." Emma laughed, the sound so free and genuine it startled even her. "Well, now's your chance to redeem yourself." He knelt beside her, taking the puzzle piece and examining it with exaggerated seriousness. Lily crawled into his lap, babbling happily, while Leo clapped his tiny hands together. Guiding the piece into its rightful place, Adam earned a triumphant cheer from Emma. "See?" he said warmly. "Not bad for an old man." Emma rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress her smile. "Fine, you win this round." The room fell into a comfortable quiet, save for the crackle of the fire and the soft sounds of the twins playing. Adam leaned back against the couch, Lily still perched in his lap, her tiny fingers wrapped around his thumb, her grip surprisingly strong for someone so small. "You're good at this," Emma said suddenly, her voice soft. She glanced at him, her expression a mix of admiration and gratitude. "Being a dad." Adam's chest tightened, but this time it wasn't from fear or doubt. "I didn't think I'd have the chance," he admitted, his voice quieter than usual. "Not after everything." "You do now," Emma replied firmly, "and you're doing more than enough." Her words settled over him like a balm, easing the lingering doubts that had plagued him. He looked at her, seeing not just the resilient girl who had stumbled into his life, but a strong, determined young woman who had fought with everything she had for her family. "Thank you," Adam said, his voice steady, "for trusting me." Emma blinked, startled by the sincerity in his tone. For a moment, no words were needed as the warmth of their newfound bond filled the space between them. "Thank you," Emma said, her voice trembling slightly, "for giving us a home." Later that evening, after the twins had been tucked into bed, Adam and Emma sat by the fire, sharing the quiet moment. Emma sipped from her mug of tea, her legs curled beneath her, while Adam stared into the flames, lost in thought. "Do you ever think about her?" Emma asked, breaking the silence. Adam turned to her, his brows furrowing slightly. "Hope?" Emma nodded, her gaze steady. "All the time," he admitted, his voice soft. "But it's different now. For so long, I thought about what I lost, what I couldn't fix." He paused, the flickering firelight casting shadows across his face. "But now, I think about what she gave me. You. Them." Emma swallowed hard, her throat tightening with emotion. She reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "She'd be proud of you, of what you've done for us." Adam's expression softened, and he covered her hand with his. "She'd be proud of you too, Emma, more than you know." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The fire crackled softly, its warmth filling the room, while outside, snow continued to fall quietly. Emma stood by the window, looking out at the frost-covered garden. Adam joined her, his hands tucked into his pockets. "It's beautiful," she said, her breath fogging the glass. "It is," Adam agreed, though his gaze wasn't fixed on the snow, but on the family they had become. Behind them, the room was filled with the remnants of the day, presents half unwrapped, Lily's blanket draped over the couch, and the adoption certificate framed and proudly displayed on the mantel. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was a home, not just in structure, but in spirit. Emma turned to Adam, her eyes shining with gratitude. Thank you for everything." Adam smiled, a genuine warmth spreading across his face. "You don't have to thank me. This is where you belong." For Adam, Emma, Lily, and Leo, this winter marked not just the end of a year, but the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, healing, and the unshakable bond of family. And for the first time in a long time, the warmth in Adam's heart rivaled even the glow of the fire beside them.